I want to commend the committee members and the work of this committee during the first session of the 117th Congress. This is the 10th hearing that we've held and that I've held as chair, along with Ranking Member Scott, and our first hearing of 2022. So, Ranking Member Scott, I want to thank you for your continued partnership and the work we've done together. Let me turn to the topic for today. Today's hearing will examine the decisions that millions of older Americans make every year, involving their income, their savings, insurance, homes, so many issues. And these choices that they make can have lasting consequences for their lives. Today, the committee is also releasing a bipartisan report on the help Americans need to make these critical decisions. I'm holding up the report. If you can't see it, it's entitled Financial Literacy in Retirement. The subheading is Providing Just-in-Time Information and Assistance to Older Americans and People with Disabilities. So that will be available on a lot of platforms and through Senate offices and back in our states. So whoever wants copies of that, we can provide those. But it's critically important that we compile reports like this, and I want to thank the staff for the good work that they've done to make that possible. We're also going to disseminate a brochure. The brochure is entitled Retirement Decisions. All kinds of information about the difficult decisions that people have to make before and even during their retirement. We know that, for example, this year nearly 11,000 Americans will turn age 65 every single day, 11,000 a day. In my home state of Pennsylvania, that number is about 460 Pennsylvanians who will turn 65 each day. Just one example of the many, I should say, as just one example, many of the Americans reaching this milestone can benefit from real-time information on how to sign up for Medicare, for example. One such person is in my home state of Pennsylvania, from Beaver County, Rochester, Pennsylvania, is Charlotte Zagoda. Charlotte contacted our office way back in 2019. Charlotte's husband always took care of their finances, but when he passed away, she was not able to keep his health plan. When she tried to sign up for Medicare, she learned she would have to pay a Part B late enrollment fee, and that fee was for life. Had she and her husband received the support they needed when they approached age 65, Charlotte believes they would have been able to make a more informed decision. So many families face these kinds of challenges. When nearing retirement, Americans face so many important and complex financial decisions. And these decisions can be daunting for anyone, no matter who you are. People, of course, want timely information and help from a trusted source of information. They seek assistance in making the right financial decision for themselves and for their families, but they often don't know where to turn. Last year, my constituent services team received over 1,000 calls and emails from Pennsylvanians on these issues. Thankfully, both Congress and the White House have committed to helping Americans demystify these financial decisions. Or should I wait? Second, they might be asking, do I need to sign up for Medicare, or can I wait? Third, they might be asking, is it time to sell my home? These are not simple decisions for anyone. Our witness panel will shed lots of light on the information Americans need just in time to succeed. With that, I want to turn to Ranking Member Scott for his opening remarks. Sorry about that. I guess Senator Scott might be having technical issues. I wanted to, in the interim, acknowledge members of the Aging Committee who are with us today. And obviously some people will be available now, and some people may have to leave to go to another hearing or another engagement, and then they'll come back. But Senator Rick Scott and Senator Jackie Rosen. So in the interim, while we fix some of our technical issues, I wanted to start to go through our witness introductions. I'll start, and then if we can take a pause for Senator Scott whenever that is appropriate. Let me start with our first witness. Our first witness is Jerry Walsh from the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. Ms. Walsh serves as the Senior Vice President of Investor Education. She's responsible for developing a wide range of research and educational initiatives to address systemic wealth disparities for underserved communities. So we want to thank Ms. Walsh for being with us. Our second witness is Cindy Hounsell. Cindy is the president and founder of the Women's Institute for a Secure Retirement. Goes by the acronym WISER. Cindy has dedicated her professional life to setting women up for success in retirement. The organization, WISER, works to provide financial literacy and support to women across the nation. I'll turn to a third witness, and then we'll get to our fourth witness. Patty Zarowitz hails from Atlanta, Georgia. Ms. Zarowitz has 15 years of experience with the Aging and Information Services Unit at the Atlanta Regional Commission. She helps seniors and people with disabilities and federal agencies to receive benefits and locate services. Ms. Zarowitz, I wanted her to know that Senator Warnock, who's a member of our committee, will be joining us later for questions, and he and all of us want to hear about your great work in your home state of Georgia. And at this point, I'll take a brief pause to see if we have fixed some of the technical issues.
Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes.
Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sorry you cannot see me. Maybe that's better for everybody that you can't see me today, but I am happy to be with y'all, even by phone. I apologize for the technical difficulties that we're experiencing trying to connect. I can hear everyone fine, by the way. I can see you fine. I just cannot get my system to work. Let me thank Chairman Casey for holding this really important hearing on financial literacy. Financial literacy is critical to learn as early in life as possible. Like the chairman mentioned, as a testament to the importance of financial literacy for older Americans, the committee is working on our annual bipartisan report, and this year it is on financial literacy. As a kid who was raised in a single-parent household, mired in poverty, but blessed with a loving mother, I understand and appreciate the importance of learning financial principles as early in life as possible. It is one of the reasons why I co-chair the Financial Literacy Caucus along with Senator Jack Reed. And since 2015, we have declared April as Financial Literacy Month through a resolution in a bipartisan fashion. South Carolina is one of the 21 states that requires high school students to take a course on financial literacy. There's a nonprofit in our state called SC Economics, whose mission is to provide training and resources to educators. They have trained nearly 2,500 teachers and reached more than 235,000 students in South Carolina with their financial literacy curriculum. It is never too late to learn the importance of financial literacy. As a part of my focus, it is making sure that every American, and particularly our senior Americans, have an opportunity to understand and appreciate and to benefit from financial literacy. One of the reasons why this is so important for our seniors, we can see demonstrated through an experience at Citizens Bank in a small rural town in South Carolina called Johnsonville in Florence County. It has trained its employees to look for suspicious activity and provide seniors with the support they need. This example that I'm talking about was when a 60-year-old disabled senior came into the bank and asked for an $8,000 cashier's check. The trained employee understood that this was unusual for this senior and proceeded to ask a few important questions. Ultimately, the bank employee discovered that the senior was involved in a romance scam and was able to stop the senior from sending $8,000 to someone and never seeing the money again. Educating our seniors on when it is safe and when it is not safe to transfer money is a critical component of financial literacy. I'm also pleased to have dedicated and committed South Carolinians like Dorothea Bernique of Increasing Hope, who has helped countless seniors through financial literacy programs and helped them to maintain and to achieve their version of the American dream. To have financial literacy, we must have financial inclusion. That is why it's so important to continue to work in many ways to advance the cause of equal access to opportunity throughout our country. Building on financial inclusion, I've also introduced, along with Senator Joe Manchin, the Credit Access and Inclusion Act of 2021 to expand access to credit for an estimated 45 million Americans with no credit history. When you pay your bills on time, it should help improve your credit. It's kind of that simple. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Ranking Member Scott, thank you very much for your opening statement. The one thing that we didn't do in the interim is introduce Ms. Bernique. Ranking Member Scott, can you?
Happy to do so. Thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I am pleased to introduce an individual who is working tirelessly to improve financial literacy across the Palmetto State, and that person, as I just mentioned, Dorothea Bernique. Dorothea is the founder and executive director of Increasing Hope, which stands for Helping Others Prosper Economically. She's located in Charleston, South Carolina. For the past 16 years, Increasing Hope has helped South Carolinians realize their American dream by improving their financial literacy. Ms. Bernique's testimony today is based on her extensive work and experience on the ground working with individuals, families, and specifically older Americans to become more educated in personal finance. I want to thank Dorothea for being here today and for doing such good work on behalf of our state and every single person who lives in there. We look forward to your testimony.
Ranking Member Scott, thank you very much for that introduction. Now we'll turn to our witnesses' statements. We'll start with Ms. Jerry Walsh. Ms. Walsh, you may begin your statement.
Thank you. Chairman Casey, Ranking Member Scott, and members of the committee, on behalf of FINRA and the FINRA Investor Education Foundation, thank you for the opportunity to appear today. FINRA is a not-for-profit self-regulatory organization that works with the Securities and Exchange Commission to regulate broker-dealers, over 600,000 individuals and 3,400 firms. FINRA's mission is to protect investors and promote market integrity. As part of that mission, we focus, alongside the FINRA Foundation, on research and education to help Americans achieve financial security. FINRA makes investor protection for senior investors and vulnerable adults a top priority. We have rules focused on these populations, and we work with stakeholders to enhance the investor protection safety net. For example, last year, FINRA, Securities and Exchange Commission staff, and state regulators developed specialized industry training on the Senior SAFE Act, legislation this committee knows well. And while not all harm results from sales practice abuses, FINRA does take swift action against broker-dealer misconduct. At the same time, we believe investor knowledge is key to prevent harm, especially for older adults. Americans entering retirement face consequential decisions about health care and how to turn years of hard-earned savings into income lasting for the rest of their lives. Pivoting from asset accumulation to spending down assets, retirees often must make once-in-a-lifetime choices they typically cannot undo. One wrong decision can upend decades of careful financial planning. That's why FINRA provides free, unbiased resources to help Americans better understand the risks and rewards of investing, how markets work, and how to avoid scams and other financial pitfalls. It's also why the FINRA Foundation spends significant resources on research that we share widely. The Foundation's National Financial Capability Study has revealed that financial knowledge among U.S. adults is low and has decreased over time. In 2009, 42% had high financial literacy. By 2018, only 34%. And an early look at the 2021 data collection suggests levels have fallen slightly further. We see the largest decline among Americans ages 18 to 34. Separately, we see demographic differences for women and most people of color. For adults with disabilities, the stakes are even greater. This is in part because the cost of living for Americans with disabilities is 29% higher than for those without disabilities, according to a study funded by the Foundation. Other Foundation-funded studies have shown that knowledge about financial and health matters generally declines with age, with a faster rate of decline tied to such things as poor decision-making, a higher susceptibility to scams, and lower psychological well-being. Overestimating one's cognitive skills has also been tied to poor decision-making, as has loneliness when paired with low cognition. Beyond research, the Foundation assists Americans on numerous investing and personal finance topics, from investing basics to managing retirement income, and even dealing with the aftermath of natural disasters. We've worked with dozens of partners, empowering them to reach people where they live, learn, and earn through key channels such as public libraries and workplaces. And we team up with fellow regulators and national nonprofits to train intermediaries to combat financial fraud. You can learn more at finra.org/investors. In conclusion, we share your belief that bolstering and maintaining financial literacy in older and vulnerable populations could yield numerous benefits, including better decision-making, reduced scam susceptibility, and greater psychological well-being. Where it can, I encourage Congress to support research that further explores the nexus between financial capability and aging and examining what works in financial education. I also believe enhanced support for state adult protective service programs, especially those that handle financial exploitation cases, will help better protect older and vulnerable Americans. FINRA and the FINRA Foundation are fully committed to helping Americans build a secure financial future. Thank you again for inviting me to testify. I'm pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Well, Ms. Walsh, thanks very much for your testimony, and you had a couple seconds to spare, so thank you. Our next witness is Cindy Hounsell. You may begin. Cindy, I think you're muted.
Okay, here we go. Good morning. Thanks to the committee for inviting us to participate. I'm Cindy Hounsell, president of the nonprofit Wiser, a 25-year-old nonprofit that works to help women, educators, and policymakers address the complicated issues that affect women's retirement planning. Our 5-minute statement, which I hope won't be 6 minutes, will focus on the issues Wiser was asked to address, namely retirement challenges that women face, the need for targeted financial information, the need for more retirement income, and how Wiser addresses these challenges to reach underserved and under-resourced communities by providing financial literacy programs. Wiser partners with diverse nonprofit groups, companies, plan sponsors, credit unions, financial institutions, and financial planners to ensure there's community buy-in and follow-up. We regularly collaborate with government agencies, the Social Security Administration, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the Securities and Exchange Commission. The audience: midlife and older women, underserved low-income women, Black women, Latinas, Native Americans, as well as women in rural areas, women with disabilities, caregivers, and limited English speakers, who are all prominent in our work. We find these women are eager to learn financial basics and take action with how-to information. So why women? That's one of the first questions we get. Well, because women live longer and they need more retirement income, and they generally have less. Plus, at age 65, there are nearly 6 million more women than men. And by age 85, women make up nearly 70% of that population. Many of the 85 plus group end up near or in poverty, even if they've never been poor before. This is especially common for women living alone and for minority women. Why financial literacy? Research confirms women generally have lower levels of financial literacy than men, and that literacy is directly linked to overall financial well-being. The bigger problem is the not knowing what they need to know to make the best decisions or to take advantage of benefits they might otherwise miss out on. So Weiser's key initiative is the National Resource Center on Women in Retirement. And that resource center is administrated and funded by HHS through the Administration on Aging and its Older Americans Act programs. Retirement is a complicated time of life, and it's made up of complicated systems. Most working women living paycheck to paycheck cannot afford even the smallest financial mistake, and often life events such as divorce and widowhood have a significant impact on their financial lives. The center provides critical retirement planning information that helps women navigate these real life changing situations. For example, one of our award-winning guides, Going It Alone, a guide for widows, takes the reader step by step through the process of claiming benefits. Targeted outreach. We're often asked, how do we reach the women? As the center has directly reached hundreds of thousands of women through Weiser's and our partners' workshops and reached millions with publications. The answer is our partners help us succeed. Two nonprofits that Weiser has worked with for a long time are MANA, a national Latina organization, a group with 25 chapters, and the National Caucus and Center on Black Aging, which serves the Black African American community through several state and local programs. The importance of trusted messengers means that the success in reaching these organizations results from the adaptability and flexibility needed to make programs work. We provide the partners with specialized education programs segmented for the appropriate audience, and nearly every experience is successful, as proven by pre and post testing. Unfortunately, these programs cannot eliminate the racial asset gaps, but they provide real hope, resources, and ways to improve individual finances in a complicated economy. In conclusion, I'd just like to focus on some of the improvements that we see are needed desperately in the retirement system, including the following: improving and educating workers about the Savers Tax Credit, credit for family caregivers, educating workers about auto portability, which lowers the annual cash out rates for job changes, strengthening Social Security and Medicare so that average workers know how the systems work, expanding Social Security benefits for widows and divorced women by removing outdated claiming restrictions, and updating the supplemental security income rules by removing restrictions causing extremely low income women to live well below the poverty level. Thank you very much.
Well, Ms. Hounsell, thanks very much for your testimony. Our third witness is Dorothea Bernique. Ms. Bernique, you may begin.
Good morning, Senator Casey and Ranking Member Scott. Thank you so much for having me this morning. My name is Dorothea Bernique, and I'm the founder and executive director of Increasing Hope Financial Training Center. It does stand for helping others prosper economically. When I started my career several years ago as a financial representative, I thought this was the way that I was supposed to help individuals in the community learn how to manage their money. Little did I know that the need was so much greater than I'd ever imagined. And I was clearly made aware of it on the day that I decided to leave my job. On this day, a client came in, talked about making an investment. She had called to set up an appointment and was driven by her daughter to our appointment. Partway through our conversation, she leaned in a little closer to me and she whispered, "Miss Dorothea, what's investing?" And that was the day that I gave myself a pink slip and decided to walk away from a career to start Increasing Hope. I knew that the need was great and that educating clients about financial literacy and financial products was not enough. The financial well-being is defined as an individual who has the ability to control their day-to-day and month-to-month finances. They have the capacity to absorb financial shock, and they can stay on track with their financial goals. And finally, they have the ability to make financial choices so that they can enjoy life. The lack of basic financial literacy of individuals, no matter what the income level, is low as a result of low financial literacy. 29% of South Carolina consumers, they have credit cards which have outstanding debt of 75% or more. 29% of the consumers have credit cards with 75% credit limits mastered out. 15% of South Carolina households have a 0% net worth. And finally, 14.4% have households reporting falling behind on their bills within the last 12 months. And so we know that this number is now even astronomically higher due to COVID and the fact that 14.9% of households have a poverty rate threshold and have lack of basic financial knowledge. This results in a very low well-being score of 18% for South Carolina. It means that they're not in control of their everyday finances. They do not have the ability to absorb financial shock that COVID has presented, and they're not on track to meet their financial goals. The end result is not having the ability to make choices that allow them to enjoy life. Hence, this is how many of our seniors end up as greeters at Walmart when they should be enjoying the golden years of their lives. So the lack of knowledge, the lack of money, the lack of money management skills make it a need for financial literacy and money management in our state and throughout our country. For more than 16 years now, Increasing Hope has taught more than 333 classes, provided financial education for more than 9,500 individuals, and we prepared free tax returns for more than 3,650 individuals and families, and finally saved more than 300 homes from foreclosure during the housing crisis. As a certified HUD housing counseling agency, we've helped individuals and families improve their scores and become homeowners. Our current curriculum that's used in the community, D-Free, is an amazing financial literacy transformation course for the young and seniors. The D&D Free is not just for debt, but we teach our clients how to get set free from debt, delinquencies, and deficits so that they can become free to begin to make deposits, meaning become savers, make dividends so that they can become investors, and finally have deeds so that they can become homeowners. By teaching individuals how to manage their money so that they can manage their lives, we get to change lives. Like Miss Brown, who was more than 60 years old, when she sat in front of us confessing and crying because she'd made a budget for the very first time in her life. And this was changing her financial life. A component of the training is specifically designed for seniors to make financial choices that specifically impact them. To make an even greater impact, we've moved into an opportunity center that allows us to serve the community in an even greater way. In partnership with 3 local nonprofits, Increasing Hope, we're able to focus on community economic development services with the support of a $2.7 million grant from the EDA and an additional grant which will help us with the programmatic work of Increasing Hope as we continue to serve the community. So the lack of financial literacy, coupled with financial well-being, and the impact of COVID on families may seem a little overwhelming. However, there is still hope. Increasing Hope Financial Training Center will continue to make a difference in our community, one class at a time, one counseling session at a time, and one person at a time. Thank you so much for this opportunity to testify before the committee. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Ms. Bernique, thank you very much for your testimony. Our fourth and final witness for her statement is Patty Zarowitz. Ms. Zarowitz, you may begin.
Good morning, Chairman Casey, Ranking Member Scott, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to share my 15 years of experience serving as a certified aging and disability resource connection counselor at the Atlanta Regional Commission. The Atlanta Regional Commission is a regional planning and intergovernmental agency, and that has multiple functions, including serving as the Atlanta Region's Area Agency on Aging. In that role, we serve older residents, caregivers, individuals with disabilities, and grandparents raising grandchildren by providing them access to information for resources that they need. Our ADRC is part of the No Wrong Door system, a collaborative effort of the Federal Administration for Community Living, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and the Veterans Health Administration. In the Atlanta region, we refer to this and other services to consumers as Empowerline. Every month, our Empower Line counselors assist more than 7,000 callers. Since June of 2021, we have seen an increase in our calls by about 25%. Last state fiscal year, we assisted 57,291 residents. In addition, people can access information and search for services on our website, empowerline.org, which has experienced a steady increase in visits. Our 27 full-time equivalent Empowerline counselors respond to requests that come in via phone, email, fax, chat, and walk-ins. We provide information on housing, transportation, in-home services, financial assistance, and more. The ARC is the entry point for the Georgia Medicaid Home and Community-Based Program, known as the Elderly and Disabled Waiver Program, as well as the entry point for services funded through the Older Americans Act. The amount of time that counselors spend on the phone with each person averages 25 minutes, but many cases take much longer, sometimes multiple days, depending on the nature of the call. Simply listening to a person's story can be supportive. Every call we receive is treated with a person-centered, holistic approach to help the person with all of their needs. During the 15 years I have worked at the ARC, the calls have become increasingly more complex because of the caller's difficulty navigating healthcare and financial benefits such as Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Many people do not have a support system. The person may be widowed, living alone, estranged from family, or family lives out of town and can only provide limited support. Lacking computer skills or access to the internet creates further barriers. Oftentimes, I can hear the pain and despair in their voices. Because of these barriers and lack of support system, we frequently are the only person's lifeline for obtaining information that can educate and support that person in making critical life-changing decisions. People are looking for someone to help translate the information they receive in the mail, hear on the radio, see on the television, or information on websites such as Medicare and Social Security. As an unbiased, person-centered, and free resource, Empowerline counselors can be trusted to provide help without the ulterior motive or for our agency's financial gain. Financial and health literacy should include knowing where to turn for trusted help when the system is too complicated to navigate on your own. We aim to get at the root cause of the challenges people are facing and help them understand what is available to them and how to access it. Without help from Empowerline counselors, people can find themselves, for lack of knowledge, in one of the following scenarios: enrolled in a Medicare plan paying $20 to $40 copays when they are eligible for Medicare, Medicaid, and have no copays; paying Medicare Part B premiums, not aware of eligibility for extra help or because they forgot to renew their Medicaid. Congress can help us better support older residents, adults with disabilities, and their care partners by supporting additional financial support for ADRCs so we can hire additional counselors. ARC receives funding from Georgia's Medicaid agency for the Medicaid HCBS waiver access and Georgia's State Unit on Aging. However, our State Unit on Aging only designates $37,000 per year for ADRC information counseling, not enough funding for even one full-time staff person. Public awareness of the National Network of Area Agencies on Aging and the invaluable unbiased guidance we can support for people, and more user-friendly technology for documenting client data, better integration across our technology systems, which include the telephone, resource database, and client management systems. Thank you for this opportunity to testify before the committee and allowing me to share my experience and passion for what I do in serving older Americans, adults with disabilities, and their care partners. I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Ms. Arrows, thanks so much for your testimony. I'll start a round of questions and actually start with you for the first question. In your testimony, you talked about the extensive work that the Atlanta Regional Commission does to assist individuals looking to enroll in Medicare. We know that many older adults new to Medicare face a complicated enrollment process. As I mentioned earlier, last year, Senator Young and I introduced the Bennies Act. The bill includes provisions that directs the federal government to provide advanced notice to individuals approaching Medicare age about the basic enrollment rules. Given your work assisting people with Medicare enrollment, how would this legislation help older adults and people with disabilities with regard to the enrollment process?
Chairman Casey, thank you for that question. I am not an expert on legislation and have not read the bill you have proposed. However, I do know that if individuals would receive clear guidance from the federal government about Medicare right before they enroll, it would meet a need for information at a critical decision-making time. I say this because of the experience with speaking with highly educated individuals who report being very confused by the complexity of the Medicare enrollment process and call the ADRC for information and guidance.
Well, thanks very much for that, and I really appreciate your testimony. I'll turn next to Ms. Walsh, and I'll not use the acronym just so everyone knows the full identification of what we're talking about when we use an acronym, but the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority Foundation, the so-called FINRA Foundation, supports a number of educational initiatives provided through libraries. As of 2019, the most recent number we have for Pennsylvania is 470 libraries across Pennsylvania, serving in many cases, most cases, the most rural parts of our state and underserved communities. We also know that many of the people who patronize those libraries are older adults and people with disabilities. Through the most recent infrastructure bill signed into law this past year, there are critical investments in broadband, so-called high-speed internet, helping, quote, community anchor institutions, unquote, like public libraries better serve their communities. Ms. Walsh, can you share more about how libraries can serve as vehicles of both financial education as well as financial literacy for older adults and people with disabilities?
I would be delighted to. The FINRA Foundation has been collaborating with the American Library Association for more than 15 years on helping to build the capacity of public libraries and the librarians who work there to be a resource for personal finance topics and investing topics. And as a result of that, there have been thousands of programs nationwide that have been focused on particularly people who have had limited access to the financial mainstream. And it's very consumer first focused, unbiased, no sales pitches are allowed. Libraries know their communities, they serve their communities. As with other institutions, they've pivoted to digital delivery, and they're increasingly a good resource in the community. The foundation has been working with ALA to train librarians through a series of online modules. The topics that the training covers include many of the issues that were identified in the committee's report: claiming Social Security, Medicare issues, all the financial planning types of issues that you identified in the report. Another way that libraries can be of service to the community is through helping disaster recovery. And that's something that FINRA has been doing recently in Philadelphia. With hurricanes this summer, we provide disaster recovery grants to libraries to help libraries be a hub for people recovering from the financial aftermath of disaster.
Ms. Walsh, thanks very much. I'll turn next to Ranking Member Scott, but before doing that, just want to give folks a notice. Because of a scheduling change in another committee, the Health, Education, Labor, Pensions Committee, we're going to try to wrap this hearing up at 10:50 or 10:55 so that we can get to that next meeting. So I'll turn next to Ranking Member Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question, I'll start with Ms. Bernique. Financial literacy is a core component of the American dream. It empowers consumers to responsibly participate in the mainstream economic ecosystem. According to the National Financial Capability Study, approximately 2 out of 3 Americans are unable to answer 3 of the 5 financial literacy questions correctly. Older Americans might also assume that saving is not as important as it would be if they were a little younger. Ms. Bernique, what advice do you give to seniors to help them boost their financial management skills?
Thank you, Senator Scott, for the question. We run into this quite a bit, especially with our older or senior clients and individuals. The first thing that we tell them is it's never too late. Many times we will think, having gone through various phases of life, that it is too late to implement principles, but we also teach them and let them know that money management is a skill set, a soft skill set with a principle that once implemented, it will work for you no matter how young or how old, and that they should continue to engage in educating themselves and implementing the money management principles that have the ability and the capacity literally to change their life. Many times it can be something as simple as one money management tip, such as making sure that you save a little bit of your finances from every bit of income that you have, which will prepare you for an emergency. And so while it may seem small, something like that can actually be life-changing to both the young and our older citizens that we serve.
Let me continue with you for a second, Ms. Bernique. One of the things you said earlier in your introduction or your introductory remarks was manage your money, manage your life. I think that's such a powerful statement. Manage your money, you manage your life. And you just talked about the importance of saving, no matter what your age, taking a few points or few percent out of your every week paycheck or every other week paycheck and saving that for the future self is really important. And I really appreciate you distilling that fact. Another component to financial literacy that seems to be more important today than it was maybe ever, but certainly 20 or 30 years ago, is the issue of credit in the area of financial literacy. And I'll say without any question that what you look like on paper might be more important than anything else, your credit score. Can you just talk to us for a few minutes, whatever amount of time you need, about the importance of managing your credit as a part of financial literacy?
Yes, sir. The importance of managing your credit and financial literacy really helps us be able to have choices in life. And so, Senator Scott, as you said, that what it looked like and what you look like on paper can be just as important, if even not more important, than in other things. And so the credit or the need for credit, we live in a credit-driven society. And so what we teach individuals is, unless we are independently wealthy, you need credit. And so it's very important for us as citizens, as individuals, senior citizens, young and old, to give credit to our credit. It has merit. And so to take the time to pay attention to this particular area of our lives, as it allows us to have options and choices as you go through life. And many times it will be that number on paper that will make the difference between whether or not you as a senior citizen have to deal with a predatory lender or whether or not you can go into a traditional bank or lender to conduct business. And so credit is very, very, very important. I think individuals being mindful of this will help them be able to be prepared for some of the choices and limitations that they run into as a senior citizen.
Thank you, Ms. Bernique. With my remaining time, which is not much, Ms. Walsh, would you talk about the importance of lifetime options in your portfolio from a financial perspective? One of the things I'll say is, having spent about 20 plus years in the financial services industry, so many of the annuities didn't have the lifetime options. So sometimes you could outlive your money. Can you talk about the importance of lifetime options with the amount of time that we have left?
When people, thank you, Senator, that's an important issue. When people transition from accumulating assets to decumulating assets, they do have choices with what they can do with their money. Some people have a pension. Many Americans rely on Social Security, but if you've accumulated savings in a 401k or an IRA, you need to think about what to do with that. And for many people, having guaranteed income can be critical to being able to meet expenses. So deciding how much of your portfolio to annuitize, especially if you don't have a very big portfolio, is a huge decision with important considerations. So it's a key topic. I see that we're out of time,
Yes, ma'am.
but thank you.
Thank you very much. And Chairman, I may come back to the witness in a second round if we have time. We both have to get to the same help committee, so we may not have that time. Thank you, sir.
Ranking Member Scott, thank you very much for that. And we'll turn next to Senator Gillibrand.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I find your testimony very, very interesting. And can you expand a little bit upon some of the things that younger people need to maintain and bear in mind to prepare for aging? You've talked a little bit about putting money aside in every paycheck. What are some other tools that younger people can use so that they are better prepared?
Was that question directed to me?
To anyone who wants to answer it.
I will answer. To help individuals or young people prepare, it is important, as we mentioned here in the state of South Carolina, that financial literacy start at a very young age, and that we begin to implement money management principles into the lives of individuals so that it becomes just a part of their lifestyle, a part of who they are, that saving money on a routine, a regular basis is not something that is a last resort or something you do after you see if you have money left over. And so it's a matter of implementing principles at an early age, training our children to realize the importance of money and finances, and then just making it a part of their lifestyle.
That makes sense. Ms. Hounsell, I want to talk a little bit about the role of caregivers. Given their longevity and frequent role as caregivers, how can women prepare for their future financial health and stability in particular? A lot of the hearing we focused on just-in-time decisions for older adults or people with disabilities, but how would you make recommendations from your perspective for young people that impact the quality of life at a later stage, and in particular for female caregivers?
Well, I think what needs to happen is that it's a complicated system when you start working, you know, and you need to know what to expect, what to look for, what benefits you get, whether or not there's a retirement plan offered, so that you're jumping in and starting as soon as you can. We run a program for college students every year where they write a paper and then there's a winner. You know, with what they would do to change the retirement system. And over again, they tell us the same thing. They had no idea about any of these programs. They have no idea what, you know, anything entails. And yet they see their grandparents struggling, many of them, and that's where they get their learning experience. Basically, they don't want to end up in that situation when they're older.
Yeah. Research shows that a large portion of older adults and people with disabilities have low levels of financial literacy, and we've heard a lot about that. And some of these just-in-time decisions, like deciding whether to annuitize a 401k, have a lasting impact on a person's well-being and security. With the growing issue of misinformation and disinformation on the internet and elsewhere, attaining the knowledge and skills to make financial decisions can be daunting. Ms. Walsh, in your role as Senior Vice President of Investor Education, what do you find are the greatest barriers to education for older adults and people with living with disabilities about financial literacy, and how do you recommend we overcome them?
Thank you for that question, because it's a very important issue. The barriers that older adults face when it comes, and people with disabilities when it comes to attaining financial education, are often that it isn't offered or made available in a place that they have access to. You know, the reality is that only about 1 in 5 Americans have availed of financial education opportunities, and very few have been offered them. So making financial education more available to individuals is one of the important considerations if we want to expand financial literacy. And expanding financial literacy is important because it is connected with better financial behaviors in life. People are more likely to save, less likely to be engaging in predatory borrowing behaviors, more likely to have a will and to be thinking about their retirement and their estate plan if they have higher levels of financial literacy.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the witnesses.
Thank you, Senator Gillibrand. As I mentioned earlier, we have a number of senators who are juggling multiple hearings and other conflicts in their schedule. Senator Warnock has joined us. As I know, we had some senators join us earlier who may have had to leave, but we appreciate Senator Warnock being with us. And so we'll go next to, just as a preview, after Senator Braun will be Senator Warren. So Senator Braun.
Thank you, Chairman Casey, Ranking Member Scott. Interesting topic. I don't know how anything could be more relevant currently than increasing your financial literacy. When I look at the federal government, it would be nice to see a place dispensing that valuable information, maybe practicing a little bit in terms of what it tries to preach at the individual level. And I don't know that we've been at a more precarious spot that I've observed since I got an economics degree and was a CFO and CEO for a company I ran for 37 years, and see a place that doesn't budget anymore. We pretty well do a resolution. We do nothing on time. We're still trying to sort out spending that should have been done almost 4 or 5 months ago. And I think that creates a credibility issue. It doesn't diminish the importance of the topic, but I think it really begs the question, where should this be focused in terms of where would it actually be coming from a place that might have the kind of consistency of practicing the principles that I think we're trying to dispense when it comes to financial literacy. You cannot borrow money for consumption, and we do that in the federal government and do it at a higher percentage every year. You cannot live beyond your means and expect to be able to finance that. And I really think that the whole issue, as important as it is, probably needs to be articulated in places where you can catch this discussion, as far back as middle school, especially in high school. And what I hear more than anything in traveling through all the counties in Indiana is, give me a potential employee that's got some life skills. Financial literacy would be one of them. And maybe that is more aptly the domain of our local school boards, our local education, and maybe that's the place to start. That being said, I got a question for Ms. Walsh. Do you think that with all the money we do spend on this subject already, kind of the poor results that we're generating generally, the example that we set here in our own federal government, is it worth the time and additional resources to be trying to push more through the federal government, or is this more properly the domain of local educators and curriculum in middle school and high school?
I appreciate the question, Senator, because this is tackling the issue of financial literacy and building financial wellness in our country will take multiple players on multiple levels. And what we have seen is that financial education does work. It does have an impact, especially over time. The higher the quality and the higher the quantity of financial education, the more likely individuals are to be engaging in more positive financial behaviors. So it's critical that there are multiple players in the field. The nonprofits that we've heard from through our colleagues who've provided testimony, state and federal agencies all have a role to play. When it comes to schools, we do see that when there are rigorous requirements concerning financial education in the classroom, that over time later in life, the people who have been exposed to those financial education programs are less likely to be engaging in costly credit card behavior, costly student loan borrowing, and predatory lending.
Would you be able to cite one or two examples of federal programs that have measurably kind of dispensed that information, had that impact that you're referring to?
Senator, while I don't have access to the efficacy of programs that are distributed by federal agencies, we do work in partnership with a number of federal agencies, from the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Federal Reserve Board to the Treasury and CFPB. And we do all work together to measure the success of financial education and how we can promote financial wellness, which is why one of the recommendations that I would make is that there be support for efforts to really suss out what works when it comes to financial education for different populations. It's not a monolithic, there's no one-size-fits-all solution to furthering financial wellness. It really needs to take into account the different needs of different audiences.
Well, I think that broad-based approach does make sense. I can tell you that in places like Indiana, it is being given increased attention to life skills. So many lawyers are looking for individuals out of high school that have those skills minimally, and most schools across Indiana are starting to get back into making sure that kids come through middle school and high school with these basic life skill sets, including financial literacy. Thanks for having the hearing.
Senator Braun, thanks very much for your questions. We'll turn next to Senator Warren, but I just want to let Senator Kelly know he'll be after Senator Warren, and then Senator Blumenthal. Senator Warren?
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding this hearing. Financial literacy is critical for Americans who are trying to make key decisions like planning for retirement. But low-income families navigating a thin social safety net that gives them too little help, all the education and counseling in the world can't magically make 2 + 2 add up to 10. So I want to take a look at supplemental Social Security income, a part of Social Security. SSI provides a critical lifeline for 8 million low-income elderly and disabled Americans, including over 1 million disabled children and families that care for them. But right now, our rules are outdated, they're punitive, and they squeeze way too many struggling families out of this program and trap about 4 out of 10 recipients in poverty. So, Ms. Hounsell, I'd like to, you're the president of the Women's Institute for a Secure Retirement. You help women plan for retirement and financial security. And so I just want to ask you about how you would counsel a woman who is receiving SSI. The maximum monthly SSI benefit, maximum, is $841 in 2022. The average benefit is below $600. Ms. Hounsell, is $600 a month adequate to live in financial security and save for retirement?
Thanks, Senator, for covering that issue. No, it's not in any way adequate. Obviously, it's only half of the poverty level for elders.
Okay, so this is not going to work. So this woman might have to consider working if she is able in order to be able to make ends meet. Now, remember, as an SSI recipient, she is elderly or disabled or caring for a disabled child. So she may not be able to work, but let's say she is considering, she's considering working. Ms. Hounsell, given restrictive SSI rules, would you advise her to go to work?
Well, I mean, every situation is, different, obviously, but I think I would make the person aware of the amount that she would be allowed to earn, which is a very small amount, and maybe to start looking, for other benefits and things that are available to her that she may not be aware of. But obviously, you cannot earn, I think what it is less than $75 a month would be for the average person.
Okay, so
SSI.
if she earns more than, so here she is, she's, based on the average benefits, she's at half the poverty level, right? She is that far below the poverty line. And the most she can earn before she starts losing her benefits is, you're telling me, $75 a month, right? Okay, so let's say she's a senior. How about claiming Social Security? Will that get her out of this problem?
No, because she's not allowed to earn, I think it's something like $20 or something,
Yes.
would stop her there. So, it's unlikely that she would be able to have a job and to do that.
So she's at half of the poverty level that we've established in this country. And if she goes over $20 in terms of collecting her Social Security, it will just reduce her benefits dollar for dollar. So here she is. She's below the poverty level because of her circumstances. She receives an SSI check, but she's going to be punished for working, punished for claiming Social Security, and punished if she saves any money. And I want to add that one. She will be punished if she saves too much, because SSI beneficiaries are allowed a maximum of only $2,000 in savings, and that includes their retirement accounts. By the way, she will also be punished for marrying, because SSI benefits and asset limits kick in for married recipients. And she will even be punished for receiving groceries from a friend or housing from her family. In other words, every avenue she would try to take to lift herself out of poverty is an avenue that she will be penalized for under our current law. Now, Ms. Hounsell, I know that you and I agree that financial literacy is important, but in addition, would reforming the help that SSI recipients get help overcome these barriers to escaping poverty and planning for retirement? In other words, if we just change the law and try to give people more opportunities to get out of poverty when they're getting SSI, would that be helpful?
Yes, I mean, I don't think there have been reforms from the time that the bill was introduced in the early 1970s by President Nixon. So I think it's time to make those reforms and change that. Our office would also check with the person who's contacting us and see whether ABLE accounts are, an option where the rules are different for the ABLE account disabled.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Ms. Hounsell. After decades of ignoring this problem, it's time for Congress to make reforms to SSI. So right now, I'm working with Senators Brown and Sanders to pass the SSI Restoration Act, which would include raising the SSI benefit rate. And it would also revise a lot of these outdated rules that effectively serve as barriers to saving, barriers to financial independence, barriers to getting married, including even just $8 billion in the Build Back Better Act to raise SSI asset limits, or $11 billion to raise the earned income disregard. would be a significant down payment on economic justice for SSI recipients, and one more reason to pass Build Back Better. SSI's original goal was to ensure that no elderly or disabled American would be forced to subsist on below poverty level incomes. And yet, that is exactly what this law has turned into. We can and we must change the law so that it fulfills its original goals. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for this hearing, and thank you very much to our witnesses.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Senator Kelly.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for holding this hearing today. Ms. Hounsell, I wanted to speak to you about housing costs, specifically in Arizona. You know, I've heard from seniors throughout the state who are rightfully concerned about the lack of affordable housing for folks who are on fixed incomes. Several months ago, my office learned about a senior who was facing eviction, was about to get kicked out of their home. Now, thankfully, our team was able to connect with this person and help them access immediate support, as well as some long-term rental assistance that was made available through COVID relief packages. So we were able to successfully deal with this problem. Ms. Hounsell, first, I want to take this opportunity to remind Arizonans that my office is here to help. So if anybody's watching this and you need help with a federal agency, please know that my office is here for you, and I encourage you to reach out. Ms. Hounsell, it's clear Arizonans, particularly seniors on fixed incomes in Arizona, are feeling a lot of pressure in this housing market with increased costs. But I know that this is not unique to my state. When your organization educates folks considering or planning for retirement, how do you address preparing for unexpected costs? What is your advice to them?
Well, I mean, what we've been doing for a long time, it's not easy, is advising people to have emergency funds so that, first of all, they protect themselves when something unexpected comes along. But, you know, the one thing that I've seen in the 25 years that I've been working on this, and housing is not, you know, one of my special areas of expertise, there may be somebody else who can answer that question better than I can, is that the salvation for most low-income women has always been that affordable housing, the senior housing. And since that isn't as available and there are so many more people with needs, I don't know what will happen to a whole population of people that will get lost. I mean, we have women contacting us that have been living in their cars for the last couple of years. I mean, that happens over and over again, that people are making those car payments so that they know that they have someplace to go.
I visited with seniors at a senior center in northern Arizona, maybe about 6 months ago. And I was at a table with about 4 gentlemen, and they live at a senior affordable housing that was about to reach the time limit where it had to remain affordable housing for the owners of the development to receive the tax credits. So they were going to have to transition out of that facility because they could no longer afford the rent increase. One gentleman told me that he had called around to 60 or every affordable housing location within like 60 miles of where they were, and he couldn't find an affordable housing unit. What do you think the federal government should be doing here to solve this housing crisis for seniors and receiving affordable housing? I know you said it's not your expertise.
Well, I'm just not sure I know there are a lot of provisions in these bills and people talk about this all the time. I'm just not familiar with the legislation that is being offered. Maybe somebody else is more familiar with that. I just know that it's not available, especially in the cities. I mean, that's why the homeless population is, constantly growing everywhere, including in Washington, D.C., where, a number of us on this, at this hearing also live. It's just, multiplies.
Ms. Bernique, how about you?
The need for affordable housing is expansive across our country. Part of the problem comes from just the lack of stock, is there's just not the availability. And the other part comes from the high cost of living in areas which make affordable housing or the ability to afford a place to live unaffordable for most individuals due to the fact that their cost of living for just housing alone ends up exceeding 50 to 60% of their income. And so part of the way that we can solve affordable housing as a HUD housing counseling agency is just the affordability or the number of stock, the just having homes available whereby individuals at lower income levels can actually afford, meaning affordability is afforded to them based on what their income is.
Well, thank you to you both. And Mr. Chairman, again, thank you for having this hearing. I had some further questions. We can submit them for the record. But thanks again for having this hearing.
Thank you, Senator Kelly. We'll turn next to Senator Blumenthal.
Thanks, Senator Casey. Thanks to you and Senator Scott for this hearing. Very important, very timely, and very much on the minds of many of the seniors in Connecticut. I was fortunate, proud to introduce with my colleague from Connecticut, Senator Larson, just a few months ago, the Social Security 2100 Act. Senator Van Hollen joined me in it, which not only will enhance the Social Security Trust Fund's long-term insolvency, but meet many of the issues that have been raised, including very eloquently by Senator Warren. I think we need to support some of Social Security's most vulnerable beneficiaries, including widows and widowers, caregivers, and our oldest seniors. Ms. Hounsell, in your testimony, you speak to the imbalance between men and women caregivers in their retirement years. You've shared that women more often leave the labor force or work part-time to accommodate family needs, whether it be for children or elderly parents. Another study shows that single women who care for elderly parents are 2.5 times more likely than other caregivers to live in poverty in retirement, often because they leave the workforce to care for others. At the same time, studies have found that women often outlive their male counterparts, leaving them not only as caregivers for their spouses, but also as widows in their later years. It's cited that at age 85, about 86% of women are single. Our Social Security 2100 Act provides caregiver credits to ensure that caregivers are not penalized in retirement for taking time out of the workforce to care for children or other dependents. And the legislation includes improvements in benefits for widows and widowers in two-income households. This bill also ensures that widows and widowers receive 75% of the combined Social Security benefits the couple was receiving prior to one spouse's death. I realize that's a lot in a very short time for you to digest, but I wonder if you could comment on your view on these provisions and how crucial it is for Congress to address the disparities of our most caring workforce that includes 48 million family caregivers.
I think it's immensely important. I mean, we recently launched a financial caregiver hub just to alert caregivers basically to what the financial costs are that they're likely to incur and how important, you know, having a plan for all of this really matters. But I think what that legislation does is it hits on the most vulnerable groups, those who are divorced, those who are widowed, and it's always unexpected, and there's always a great loss of income when people go through those, you know, life-changing situations. And also the elder care, it's like, who will pay? So one of the things we've tried to do too is to help families look at these financial caregiving agreements so that if one person, happens to live close to the parents, doesn't give up everything and become unpaid because she's just going to be poor down the road, like the statistics that you mentioned. So I think it's really key that those claiming rules that you've all considered in that legislation really would make a difference for so many vulnerable women.
I am about to run out of time, but I just want to make the additional point that Mr. Sarowitz speaks in his testimony to the importance of knowing waiting periods regarding disability determination and eligibility, as well as information on when and how to claim Social Security benefits. My Social Security 2100 Act ends the 5-month waiting period to receive disability benefits, and I think will provide much needed assistance to people who are in need. I want to just finish by thanking Senator Casey for his leadership on this entire area of caregiving to our seniors and elderly. He has really been a champion, and thanks again for the hearing, and thanks for this opportunity to participate.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal. And now that we've come to the end of the hearing, I wanted to, in the interest of time, because of the demands of our next engagement, both Senator Scott and I with the Help Committee, I will submit my closing statement for the record, but just note for the record 2 things. Number 1 is we want to thank our witnesses, Ms. Walsh, Ms. Hounsell, Ms. Bernique, and Ms. Zarowitz for their testimony. We could spend hours just on part of this topic, and we're grateful for the insights, the experience that you bring to bear on this. The second point I'll make is that the deadline for questions for the record will be January the 20th. So I'll next turn to Ranking Member Scott.
I'll suggest that I too